Welcome to the Pocket. I'm your host, Scooter, and here for you guys today. I will be covering my reaction to free agency day one. We've got some trades, of course, we've got some signings, and we've got some extensions to talk about. There's some players still requesting trades, so let's get right into it. Without further ado, I'm going to start off with trades. I didn't have time to cover all of them while I was making my off-season preview videos. Check those out if you haven't seen them already. But like I said, we're going to start things off with the first one that happened, and that was Deebo Samuel traded to the Commanders for a fifth round pick. Commanders absorbed, I believe it's $23 million per year, and there's 2 years left on that contract. Considering the state of both of these teams, I like the move for the Commanders. They're going for it. I understand people have their reservations about Deebo Samuel and his scheme fit in offenses outside of the 49ers. I understand it. But fortunately for him, he doesn't have to be the number one wide receiver for Washington. He really can be that number two or like sort of a slot guy because they have Terry McLaurin. So I like that move for them. He doesn't have to be the number one, only a fifth round pick, way better than any immediate impact you're going to get from a fifth round pick. I like the move for them. And then for San Fran, they've been trying to move off of some of these receivers, either Ayuk or Deebo, for feels like 2 years now. They drafted Ricky Pearsall. They're ready to move on. I think Juwan Jennings is still there. So I think this is a good move for them as well. Even though they only got a fifth round pick, they got rid of that contract. They've got a lot of work to do around the trenches. So opening up some of that money, definitely a good idea. Up next, I believe it was Joe Thuney, who was traded from the Kansas City Chiefs to the Chicago Bears, an older offensive lineman, but only for a fourth rounder is pretty good. Joe Thuney is a really good offensive lineman. We all know how good the Chiefs line has been over the years and just how bad the Bears interior specifically was this year for Caleb Williams. So this was the main priority. I said for the Bears this offseason, I suggested them to take a offensive lineman in the first round and to sign one. But it seems like they have done, they've done a lot of work on this offensive line already. And who is surprised with Ben Johnson going over there that he gets right to work building up this line because he knows, because he's smart, that you need it. You need that offensive line first before you get anything else. So a good move for the Bears. Chiefs had to move on, create some space, room for the future. So I understand it from their standpoint, but not quite as good for them as it is for the Bears. They got better and they got what they needed. So definitely good for the Bears. Up next, this one was very exciting. And this one, I cannot wait to see how this turns out. We had Seahawks wide receiver DK Metcalf traded to the Pittsburgh Steelers, and he got a huge contract, 5 years, $30 million per year. The Steelers gave up a second round pick to get Metcalf from the Seahawks. The Seahawks lowered their price. I thought a first round pick was definitely way too high, considering where the Steelers are going to be picking most likely in the draft next year, probably somewhere around 20 if they do what they did this year and pretty much every year. Then that's going to be a lower second round pick. I think that's just about right. DK actually fell in the draft when he was, in the NFL draft. He got taken in I think it was like the last pick in the second round. So kind of a full circle thing right there. But anyway, let's get into it. We got George Pickens and DK Metcalf on the same offense. The crash outs are going to be crazy. This is going to be must see TV when these Steelers wide receivers are on the field. I am so excited to watch them just beat on corners, get into fights. The Steelers team, this identity that they have, you got to give it to them. There's that they stick to it as a tough football team. And DK Metcalf, he might not be like the most well-rounded wide receiver, right, in terms of being a one, but he certainly is a low-end wide receiver one at the very least. And if you consider Pickens to be that same thing or like a really good two, well, now you've got a nice duo right there to work with whoever the new quarterback is. I have a feeling with the way things have shaken out so far on day one, Rodgers is still available. I think if he wants to win, this is definitely the team to go to. Some of the other teams that I thought were competitive enough to sign him have made moves like this and have already gotten their new quarterback. So I think this is a clear spot for Rodgers. I don't know who else they're going to go for if they're going to try to win now. So very excited to see DK Metcalf play out on the Steelers. Obviously, he's a good receiver. He's going to do more than just beat up on corners. But, the physical nature of his play mixed with Arthur Smith's offense, finding ways to get him open and get him the ball. I know people don't like Arthur Smith that much, but hey, at least he's going to be able to make the use of a good athlete like DK Metcalf. And then finally, our last trade, before we get into the actual free agent moves, we're going to talk about Laremy Tunsil, Houston Texans tackle, who was traded to the Washington Commanders along with a fourth round pick. So they gave up Tunsil and a fourth round pick this year, but in return from the Washington Commanders, they got a 2025 third and seventh round pick, and then they got a 2026 second and fourth round pick. So might not pay off quite right away, but this is a pretty big haul of picks for the Texans right here. Tunsil's aging. His best years, maybe not quite behind him yet, but he's probably not going to get any better. Commanders are going for it now, so this makes a ton of sense for them. Just like getting Deebo Samuel, get a guy who's not quite regressing yet, but he's going to be in a few years. So I really like this move for them. And then, like I said, for the Texans, this is a lot of picks that they're getting in return. Although they've made a lot of moves over the last offseason that made it seem like they were going to be ready to compete in the AFC. It's clear this year that they've had a lot of work to do on the offensive line. And their receiving core got very injured, and they couldn't really figure it out on offense. It all fell apart. So, having some capital to either trade up with or, just take more shots at the positions you need, I think is a good thing for them too. So not a bad trade for the Texans, but definitely really good for the Commanders. All right, now we're going to talk about the free agent guys, and why not start with the quarterback who made the most money. Sam Darnold, formerly of the Vikings, signs with the Seattle Seahawks for 3 years, $36.5 million per year. What a big deal for Sam Darnold. I've always said about guys like him and Daniel Jones, they deserve better for what they went through in their career, on the Jets or on the Giants or whatever, struggling organization failed them, failing to develop them. And we've seen what he can do on a good team like the Vikings. But I do have some concerns a little bit about him going to Seattle. First of all, 36 is definitely a discount compared to what the quarterback market is. But spoiler alert, Fields got 20 million. And I think that's a bit too much of a gap. I definitely think Darnold deserves more money for what he was able to accomplish this year. But then again, I could say something like we've never seen Justin Fields on a team like the Vikings, right? Sam Darnold's going to the Seahawks, and one thing's true about them is that although they're a talented team and they've been successful over the years, the interior of their offensive line has not been good. And that's something they still need to address this offseason. I haven't seen them make any moves for it. And if you take a chance in the draft on a guy, you might not get the immediate impact you need to fix that issue. So that is one concern I have. However, on the other hand, you will have JSN, Kenneth Walker, a good defense. Seems like they've still got a pretty strong culture over there. I'm sure, like I said, there's still more of this offseason for them to fix some of these issues on the offensive line. But some of the best guys, some of the best free agents are already signed. So I'm not really too sure what their plan's going to be for that. But in terms of giving a guy like Darnold a chance compared to Geno, moving on from Geno, I still think you're in a bit of a purgatory situation. I did say I would rather have a rental guy like Rodgers because you can move off of him and, draft a new guy. But I guess they really must believe in Sam Darnold because even though this is only a 3-year deal, he's pretty young. So you would hope to extend him after that. But yeah, so I've got kind of mixed feelings about the Sam Darnold move, but I think he definitely deserves a shot. Seattle's, they're trying to compete. They think they could do it with him. Good for them. Good luck to both of them. Moving on. Talking about Milton Williams, defensive tackle, formerly of the Eagles. He signs with the New England Patriots. I believe it's a 4-year deal for $26 million each year. That is quite a lot, I think, for a defensive tackle. Now, Milton Williams was very, very good this year. But I was talking to someone today about, getting players from the best teams is sometimes a little risky. Obviously it's a team sport. So when the team around you is doing so well, it's going to allow you to shine to your best. The Patriots are certainly a far way away from what the Eagles roster is. And Milton Williams is going to be next to Christian Barmore. So that's going to be nice. You got your run stopper, you got your 3-tech. I'm just wanting to point that out that we might not see quite the same Milton Williams, but you never know. I mean, you got Mike Vrabel coaching this defense, so he's going to, be pretty particular about how he lines these guys up. They also picked up Harold Landry, another run stopper at the edge position. So they're making lots of moves for this defense. They've made moves for this offense as well. But in terms of the Milton Williams deal itself, it might age better as time goes on. Milton Williams definitely earned at least to sign somewhere for 20 plus mil. I just think 26 is a little rich if he's not going to be quite the same contributor in against the run as he is against the pass. Once again, though, we'll see. He might be able to be disruptive enough. Um, I don't know. You could just call me an Eagles hater, but I'm just being honest, saying that they're actually a really good team, and that might inflate some of their players' values. So we'll see. There were tons of teams trying to get him, so good for the Patriots getting the guy that they want. They should be good on the interior of the defensive line now. Moving on. This was a electric move. Wide receiver Davante Adams signs with the Los Angeles Rams, pairing up with not Cooper Kupp, Puka Nacua. I got to get with the times here. A 2-year, $23 million per year deal. So about $46 million in total. I think this is a great move for the Rams. Davante Adams is not what he used to be, but I think he's got 2, maybe 3 years left. So I think the length of the contract is great. If he falls off after this year, you'll be able to, make a move or an adjustment to get rid of him or trade him away, whatever it is you want to do with him. But I don't think you're even going to have to do that. I just think this is going to work. Think about the type of wide receiver Davante Adams is, who he used to be, the timing routes, the precision throws and passes that he would execute with Aaron Rodgers. Of course, you got to be on the same page and develop that chemistry with your quarterback. But that is like the last echelon of the passing game that once it goes beyond scheme, right, and routes and where the guys are going, it comes down to the quarterback reading the leverage of the defender and throwing it away from him and the receiver being ready for him to do that. Obviously, you cannot just do that because you're going to throw it like behind the receiver or, inside of him. And he's going to be like, what the hell, man? But if the receiver knows that this corner's got inside leverage right now, he's not letting me beat him inside, and I'm running a fade, I'm ready and expecting my quarterback to throw a back shoulder pass because that's going to be away from the defender who's inside of me. So that in this Sean McVay offense, we've seen stuff like that from Cooper Kupp with the option routes and things like that. So I think a very similar thing going on here with Davante Adams on the outside. Puka might be able to become more of that slot wide receiver. It really looks like they're going to move on from Cooper Kupp. So I think this is a really, really great move. They extended Tutu out well as well. So he's going to be on the outside. Looks like you got your 3 wide receivers for this year. And I think the last reason I think this is a great move is they were able to compete with the Eagles, not because of the, their run defense or, their run game, but it was their passing game. Matthew Stafford's ability to dissect the defense, even one as great as the Eagles, even one as hard to sit through and navigate, he was able to dissect it and put his team into a position to win. Now, they did not get it done, but they were right there. And maybe a guy like Adams to expose their number 2 corner could be the difference. They don't have Darius Slay anymore. It's just Quignon and DeJean in the slot. So who's that number 2 corner? I don't know. So great move for the Rams, picking up Davante Adams in the last few years he's got left. I really like this move for the Rams. And then let's talk about Justin Fields, quarterback, one of my favorite guys to talk about. This guy is it's like Pandora's box when you start talking about Justin Fields. Some dudes think he's the Messiah. He's going to save a franchise. Some dudes think that he's just never going to improve. He can't pass. He's a first read quarterback and run. Well, I would like to believe I lie somewhere in the middle, but I definitely lean towards believing the talent of Justin Fields. So I think signing with the Jets for a 2-year deal, $20 million per, so that's $40 million total. But and can I just make a point? I don't know why people always lead off explaining contracts with the total amount of money. Who wants to go through the extra step of dividing that total amount by the years? I mean, I'm someone who's good at math, but I'm like, can we just say the rate per year? Like, come on now. But anyway, $20 million per year. You look at what the Seahawks had to do to get Sam Darnold one more year, $36.5 million per. And I would say 2 years is about the amount of time you want to have a guy like Fields or Sam Darnold. You give him the first year, and then if it doesn't work out, he has an excuse. It was his first year. He's still getting warmed up. But that second year, if you don't show us some promise by that point, it's about time to move on from you. I don't believe in, giving you that third chance. It's just drowning your roster and setting you back years. So I think this is a good move for the Jets. I think Tyrod is still there too. So if you need a veteran quarterback who's mobile to sort of help Justin Fields figure out how to be the best version of himself. Well, I'm not saying he needs to become this amazing passer. He just needs to find the right balance and decision making of when he needs to run, because that's going to open up enough that the limitations in the passing game won't be quite as bad, and he can sort of develop it over time. The Jets did let go of Morgan Moses, so he's not going to have a right tackle as of now. And, him behind a bad offensive line is something he really shouldn't be dealing with anymore. But we'll see how that goes. I did say for Seattle, I was worried that Sam Darnold might not get the interior protection he needs. That is my one concern here with the Jets, as well as they need to figure out that right tackle position so that they can protect Fields and actually give him a chance to prove what he's got. Because, Garrett Wilson's there. Justin Fields feeds his number one wide receiver. Keep an eye out for Wilson in fantasy, but they gotta support him. It doesn't stop here. This defense needs help, but I think if you get a new quarterback and you actually believe in him, you really need to support him to actually figure out if he's your guy. Moving on to some of the last two big signings, we have edge rusher Josh Sweat from the Eagles, another Eagle, who's going to reunite with Jonathan Gannon in Arizona on a 4-year, $19 million per year deal. So that's a pretty big extension, approaching near $80 million. But I do want to point out how I mentioned, Sweat doesn't need the largest deal from the Eagles for them to keep him. So I wonder why they couldn't quite give this up. Maybe it was the length of the contract, the 4 years that they weren't willing to give up. But either way, I think this is a pretty right on the money deal. I mean, we just saw Myles Garrett get paid $20 million or $40 million, which we will talk about. But here you're getting a startable pass rusher who is productive, has been productive for years, has worked with your coach, and you're getting him at less than half the cost. So if he's your starter and if he's going to be the number one on this team, that's really, really good deal. They, of course, could also draft someone. They could sign someone else. I wanted them to sign Khalil Mack. The Chargers brought him back. Looks like Joey Bosa is going to the 49ers. So not quite too sure if there's anyone left for them. But I still think, nonetheless, this was a deal they had to make. They don't have a dedicated number one edge rusher. They got inside linebackers in that role, and you just can't survive like that. So I think picking up Josh Sweat here was an absolute must for the Cardinals, and nice with reuniting with Jonathan Gannon, someone who's familiar with your game. Excuse me. And then finally, the last big signing I want to talk about, and this very well might end up being the best signing of the day. DJ Reed, cornerback formerly of the Jets, signs with the Detroit Lions at quite the discount, 3 years, $16 million per year. That's it. We've seen other corners and safeties getting $20 million. DJ Reed is easily the best number 2 corner in the league. Now he's looking like he's going to be the number 1. So it's a question still lies where a short guy like him is going to land amongst number 1 corners, but he's still worth every penny of this contract, and the Lions have needed him. And, they got a really young secondary, so I think bringing in an experienced guy like DJ Reed, been on a couple teams now, is a really great move for this Lions team, the type of move you need to make to try to get back to where you were, the NFC Championship or the Super Bowl. I'm just a huge fan of this move. Obviously, the discount is the main reason, but, at a position of need too, it just doesn't get much better than that. Oh, and then there are 2 more moves I want to talk about. We're going to glaze over all the rest of them too. I just wanted to highlight these, and that's going to be after we talk about the extensions. So up next, edge rusher Haason Reddick. We'll make this one quick. Signs with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Really like to fit in Todd Bowles' defense, using these speed rushers and the way he draws up twists and things like that. It's only a 1-year, $14 million deal too. So it is just 1 year, but it's even less than other teams paid for a guy like Sweat over 4 years. And so I think that's just a good move for the Buccaneers. Keep getting better. I said I like the state of their roster, but I guess they felt they had the money to make a move like this and bring back the guys they needed to, which we will also talk about. And then finally, I want to talk about this. Going back to the Bears, they might be the biggest winners from day one. I said easily their biggest need was interior offensive line. You get a generational quarterback, and you're not prepared to protect them. You see the result last year, and even then, Caleb Williams didn't even play that bad. He had some decent games, some decent stretches, especially early on before things fell apart. But it was because of the interior offensive line. So now You trade for Joe Thuney. And what else do? You sign Drew Dalman, the best center on the market, for 3 years, $14 million per, too. So that's not bad. Not bad at all. And you fill two of those big needs. If you really want to, continue to beef it up, which Ben Johnson, do not underestimate him, he very well might do it. If you still want to beef him up, you still got the 10th overall pick. So great start for the Chicago Bears. Caleb Williams can elevate the other weapons in the offense with his improv skills, but he can't do that if there's no pass protection. So honestly, I'm just going to say it. Biggest winners of day one to me are the Chicago Bears because they improved the most. They filled this hole immediately, which is what you really like to see from a new organization. Happy for Bears fans. They definitely love to see this. Now, finally, we're going to talk about the extensions that occurred, whether it was today or, a few days ago. I think it's important to talk about all of them now because I haven't been able to talk about all of them. All right, so let's start things off. I believe this one happened first. Las Vegas Raiders edge rusher Maxx Crosby was in contract negotiations. He signed a 3-year, $35.5 million per year deal. So not only are you not tied in for 4 to 5 years, you're only tied in for 3, but you get him at just barely over, the non-quarterback cap, which was kind of floating around at $35 million. And this deal looks even better in hindsight, and I'll get into it right after. I believe Maxx Crosby is the third best edge rusher in the NFL behind Myles Garrett and Micah Parsons. This dude's an absolute beast. I love his story too. The struggles he'd gone through in life. And now he's 27 years old and he gets the bag. You'll love to see it. This dude's relentless out there. He's earned every single penny. The Raiders have had a great offseason so far. They improved getting Geno Smith. I think they're going to get Ashton Jeanty in the draft. And honestly, I really liked where this team is headed. I might not say they're obviously, in my opinion, not winning the Super Bowl or anything, but this Raiders team has not been great for a very long time. And I think, they might actually be getting close to that 500 or playoff contending tier. So great for them. And this is why this deal looks even better in hindsight. Up next, we have Myles Garrett, who finally got the bag. He did not get traded. Oh, I did not expect that. I actually really thought he was a goner for sure, but he stays in Cleveland. They make him the highest paid non-quarterback in NFL history. 4 years, $40 million per year. Just a few years ago, that was the highest paid quarterback in the NFL. But now this is what pass rushers are making. But honestly, I would say, if there's anyone in the NFL who single-handedly is worth nearly as much as a quarterback, it is Myles Garrett. First of all, pass rushers directly affect the other team's quarterback. Literally, they're the ones sacking them most of the time. So that's why it's, you hate to say most important position on defense, but I would say it's probably the most important position on defense, especially if you're this good. I mean, like I've said before, 6'4", 272. This dude is such an amazing athlete with the refined pass rushing skills. I honestly think you could even put him in his own tier above Parsons or Crosby because of the way he gets through double teams. He's such a monster. He can win in both ways. So athletic. If anyone in the league is worth $40 million per year at not quarterback, it's Myles Garrett. But going back to the Crosby deal, even though I think Myles Garrett might even be a little bit of a tier better than Crosby, I'm still taking Crosby at $4.5 million less over Myles Garrett. That's a whole other player that you're getting on your defense, right? Whether it be depth, whether it be, some kind of, special teams impact guy. You at the end of the season, the offseason, you'll be wishing for $4.5 million so that you can pick up an extra guy or has some flexibility with someone's contract. So I really like that deal in hindsight. But yep, I think Myles Garrett's worth it. But I guess the Maxx Crosby deal is technically a little bit better. So Cowboys, you better get on it and pay Micah before you end up with the Giants and he goes to the Eagles. All right. Now moving on to the Carolina Panthers, who extended their young corner Jaycee, who they took in the first round a few years ago. 4 years, $25 million per year. It's not always looked like it, but he is a good corner. He's young and he's going to be a part of this team's future. Obviously, this defense was so bad that they almost can't even afford to let go of him because you'd have to just use resources to replace him anyway. So I think this is a good move. Keep him in-house. Panthers just need to keep the boat floating and keep making deals like this happen with some of their own guys and the free agents that they've signed as well. So I'm a fan of this. they've been improving. So it's definitely like I'm going to take a look at more of what he's done recently than in the years past where the Panthers were just god awful. So it's a solid move for them. I think it's a little expensive, 25 mil. There's other corners who have proven more who are getting less, but they're older. So, you're taking a bit of a gamble. Hope it works out. And then up next, this is a wide receiver who I wasn't quite sure, but I kind of seemed like he was going to hit free agency. Chris Godwin, Tampa Bay Buccaneers, re-sign 3 years, $22 million per year. Now, this is a big discount. This really is. Now some of that is because he's coming off injury, but even then, I think, that injury is only applying to this year, really. So this is a pretty big discount. It's pretty clear that this Buccaneers team believes in themselves. They were able to bring back a lot of their guys. Like I said, Ben Bredesen, the offensive lineman. They added Haason Reddick. They are convincing people to join them, and I'm honestly for it. I view them as very close to the Rams, and you guys know how I feel about the Rams. So I think bringing back as many guys as you can, continue getting that immediate impact. Don't try to replace them and get cute with the money or efficiency or whatever. I think Godwin's been there for years for you. Keep him there with Evans and keep everyone happy. Things will work out just fine. And then onto our last two moves for extensions. Baltimore Ravens. This was a big one right here. I said I'm pretty sure to extend him. I could be wrong, but actually maybe I said to franchise tag him due to his injury concerns. However, the Ravens do gamble and extend him for 3 years, $20 million per year, which is a pretty solid deal. He's one of the best when he's out there. But that's the thing is he just has to stay healthy. I don't know where this contract is loaded, whether it's in the front or the back. But that is going to be a big thing for the Ravens because if he gets hurt, he's going to be really old by the end of this contract. Probably going to think about moving on from him. Nobody's going to want to trade for him. So a little bit of a risk there, but you want to run this thing back. You got to take the chance to try to beat the Bills and take a jab at the Chiefs this time because I think the Chiefs, they're down right now with momentum. They're vulnerable. It could be anyone's game in the AFC next year. You got to bring the whole squad back and then some. So good for them bringing back one of the offensive linemen. Like I say, it always starts there. Good for them. And then finally, Dallas Cowboys, defensive tackle, Osa Odighizuwa. 4 years, $20 million per. He's a bit of a tweener. He's only 280 pounds, but he's got that Aaron Donald frame, and he plays the 3-tech. He's very disruptive. That's why he got this deal. They need him not for the run stopping, but because they need someone next to whoever they figure out to pick up for that interior as that nose guard position. So having a guy like him, it still works really well with this ferocious pass rush that, it didn't look quite the same last year, but the Cowboys, they had a down year. Dak got hurt and everything. But the defensive pass rush has always been strong. It's been the run defense, but he's been a part of that. It's not always Micah Parsons or DeMarcus Lawrence getting it done. Odighizuwa has been getting in there too over the years. Like I said, that's why they brought him back. They still need a nose guard desperately, or else this really isn't going to mean that much. And in fact, he's sort of a liability probably in the run game. At 280 pounds, you run into a double team. That center or guard is going to be able to move off a lot faster and get to the linebackers because it's just physics at that point. I mean, if you get double teamed at 280 by two offensive linemen, that's like 650 pounds or 600 pounds versus 280. Like, come on, you're not doing anything in that situation except getting blown back, unless I'm completely wrong. All right, so finally, I just want to give a shout out to Davante David, who's back for 1 year, 10 mil. And just one more thing about Odighizuwa. Those guys, they're always very hit or miss in terms of play-to-play. Run defense, typically they're gap guessing because, they know their strength is their quickness and penetration. But when you run into those double teams, I mean, even Aaron Donald would just kind of get clamped up by it. I mean, he'd soak up two defenders and they'd have to stay on him. So maybe Odighizuwa can be like that, but I don't think he's Aaron Donald. Okay, so let's wrap things up here. So this is the last thing I want to do. I just want to scan through the league, see if anything jumps out to me. I, of course, wasn't able to cover everything in this amount of time, but here we go. Starting with the Bills, Josh Palmer. I think that's a decent, deal. But to be honest, I just feel like the Bills have a ton of guys like this, and I said how you need an immediate impact, an immediate upgrade if you're going for a Super Bowl. I'm not hating on Josh Palmer. I think he can do it, but it's not like he was with a bad quarterback before he was with Justin Herbert. The Chargers are a very weird team. Maybe they can find a way to use him a little bit better. But I guess it looks like you got Josh Palmer and Khalil Shakir as your guys going into next year. Dolphins sign Zach Wilson. I guess no more Dylan Gabriel. That's your Dylan Gabriel right there. Honestly, could even replace Tua if Tua gets one more concussion and Zach Wilson comes in, doesn't look too bad in an offense that's really going to protect him. That could be a good move. Patriots pick up Morgan Moses from the Jets, so that's a double negative for the Jets. Like I said, they signed Harold Landry and Milton Williams, working on that defense big time, but they also addressed the offensive line. Mac Hollins from the Bills, so they're really getting a lot of these interdivision guys, I guess, that they've seen quite often. Josh Dobbs, I don't get that. You have Joe Milton, so I don't really understand. I guess you wanted a third quarterback. But yeah, so really looking for a number one wide receiver here still. I had them literally doubling down and getting Godwin and Tet McMillan. But for me, Tet McMillan's got to be a lock at 4 at this point. Jets, I talked about Justin Fields. Jamie Sherwood re-signed Brandon Stevens. Ravens re-signed Stanley. The Bengals, they added Samaje Perine, who came from there, but is going back to kind of be probably going to be more of the power back as a complement to Chase Brown. They were able to re-sign BJ Hill. They were able to re-sign Mike Gesicki. This T. Higgins situation is just a complete mess, but they signed a lot of dudes on defense. You see TJ Slayton, Oren Burks from the Eagles, and then an offensive lineman, Cody Ford. They were busy this offseason. Browns made a trade swap with the Eagles, acquiring Kenny Pickett, getting rid of DTR. Great trade for both teams. DTR's athleticism is definitely promising, but his passing is so bad that I think he could only work on the Eagles. So, yeah, I hope he can do something. Maybe he comes in and, has a nice game as a backup or, as the number 2 quarterback at some point. And then Kenny Pickett, definitely an upgrade from DTR in Cleveland. So good move for them. Get a little bit of stability at the quarterback position. And then, of course, they extended Myles Garrett. We talked about the Steelers, DK Metcalf, Donald Parham, another gigantic tight end added to that room. Thanks, Arthur Smith. AFC South, the Chiefs, Christian Kirk, Justin Watson, traded away Laremy Tunsil. The one thing I don't like about that move that I didn't mention is it's like, who is your best offensive lineman now? I mean, you're really going to be in trouble. You got a lot of work to do there. Not sure if that is aging quite as well to me, but hey, they did get a ton of picks for it. So, got to go back. Colts, Charvarius Ward and Cameron Bynum. I said in my preview video, I said, I don't know if they're going to take safety or corner with their first pick. They need big tackling guys, and I don't know who it's going to be. Well, turns out it might not be either of them because they just filled 2 of those holes through free agency. So I guess that's good for them. They're really going to be looking at tight end and, other positions on defense, maybe a wide receiver as well. So interesting for the Colts. Jaguars got busy. Eric Murray, Jordan Lewis improving the secondary. Got, Patrick McCarry from the Ravens. And then they got Robert Hainsey as well. So really making a lot of moves. And I like this one right here. Diami Brown. This is a steal. 1 year for only $10 million. This dude's 25 years old. He looked great on the Commanders, especially down the stretch last year. If you just ask me, just off a pure eye test, dude was really, really good. Trevor Lawrence has got a nice deep ball. They're looking for a number 2 wide receiver. I think pairing him with Brian Thomas Jr. is going to work really nicely with Trevor Lawrence. Titans, interesting. Dan Moore Jr. This signing is definitely very bold, projecting growth out of Dan Moore Jr. Like I said, never trying to hate on any of these guys, but not quite sure if that's the appropriate amount of money right there. Maybe a little bit desperate, missing out on a couple guys. Denver Broncos, Talanoa Hufanga. And they also signed Drake Greenlaw, I'm pretty sure. So this defense just went from great to scary. Oh, my God. Lots of 49ers players going over there. Chiefs, they're busy. Tagged Trey Smith, traded away Joe Thuney, signed tackle Jalen Moore, extended Nick Bolton, signed Elijah Mitchell for not any reason that makes a lot of sense to me. And after the Xavier Worthy situation, Marquise Brown got a 1-year deal the next day. So, or may have even been the same day. Raiders, Geno Smith, Alex Kappa, Maxx Crosby, Jeremy Chin too, along with the other guys I mentioned. Man, I really like the way this offseason is starting off for them. Excited to see where they go. Chargers re-signed Khalil Mack, let go of Joey Bosa. That already happened. Dante Jackson, they agreed to their deal. Bradley Bozeman at center. They really need help on the interior, so there's one step right there. Re-signing Bozeman. And then NFC East, Javonte Williams to the Cowboys. Boring. I do like Javonte, but really would like to see an explosive really young running back getting ready to go. But hey, Javonte Williams is a guy who's going to have a bit of a comeback story this year. His career started off really strong and he got injured, and Cowboys are going to take a chance on him. 1 year, $3 million deal is pretty much nothing. So it's, I guess, a solid deal. And then we talked about Odighizuwa. Giants, Darius Slayton extended 3 years, $36 million. All right. I guess he's never leaving the Giants. That's totally fine because he's okay. Chris Manhurts re-signed. Nice. I like him. Paulson Deebo, 3-year, $18 million contract, $36 million fully guaranteed. I think this is a solid deal right here. Giants needed a corner. He's 25 years old. You're skipping his developmental years. You're going to get the best out of him in his career, and this is not even that expensive. Eagles extended Saquon, extended Bond, re-signing him, and they traded for DTR, acquiring a 5th-round pick as they gave away Kenny Pickett. We talked about a lot of the Commanders. Bobby Wagner's back. They also signed Javon Kinlaw. This deal was pretty expensive. I don't know why you'd let go of Jonathan Allen and then sign Javon Kinlaw if you're trying to go for it now, but I guess they really believe in him, and Dan Quinn has done this. The Laremy and Tunsil trade, also good. Bears, like I said, think they won the offseason. Not really for anything much else besides their work in the offensive line. Look at this. All three. And I don't know if I just missed this, but Jonah Jackson acquired via trade. Oh, this happened before. Jonah Jackson acquired via trade from the Rams for 6th-round pick. Might not be a starter. Not 100% sure, but they are acquiring linemen, and that is their biggest need. So that's going to make an immediate impact. Lions, like I said, DJ Reed, big move. Derek Barnes extended. Marcus Davenport, good for him after the way his career started. Packers, Aaron Banks filling the hole of Josh Myers in case he doesn't come back. I don't know if he's signed yet. Isaiah McDuffie, linebacker, and then Nate Hobbs. They might not get Jair back, so getting Nate Hobbs, not a bad deal right there. Pretty cheap too, $12 million per year is not too bad. Vikings re-signed Aaron Jones. They get Ryan Kelly, who's been a multiple-time Pro Bowler, 2-year deal. That's a really good deal for them. That interior pass rush really ruined their stretch down the end of the season. NFC South, Falcons been pretty quiet. Extended Jake Matthews. Panthers, they've been busy. Like I said, Jaycee Horn, Trayvon Moehrig, tackling safety, definitely going to help their defense, something they needed to do, so good for them. And then they get Tershawn Wharton after missing out on Milton Williams. Honestly, 3-year, $54 million, a lot cheaper. That's not too bad. If Derek Brown comes back and is fully healthy halfway through this season, you're going to have a nice complementary pair of defensive tackles right there. That is good. The Saints, they can't even do anything. They have no money. So they acquired Devon Gachow. I don't know how to say that. It looks French or something. I'm sorry, man. But they acquired him via trade for a 7th-round pick. Good for him, man. He's gonna stay there for a while. Probably be a starter. Bucks, Chris Godwin extended. Ben Bredesen extended. Levante David re-signed. Well, really re-signed all these guys. And then Haason Reddick added. So they only got better and stayed the same. NFC West. Cardinals, like I said, they got Josh Sweat adding. Baron Browning as well. Akeem Davis Gaither. And then re-signing Kelvin Beachum and Evan Brown. So they needed to do that. Or else they really would have had a problem on the offensive line. Rams, Devontae Adams, Tutu Atwell. I said they needed run defense. Poona Ford, one of the most purely run-defending defensive tackles. You guys got to see a picture of this guy. He is an absolute planet, and I love it. I love every second of Poona Ford. So you love to see those purely run-defending defensive tackles clogging up those gaps. Impossible to move Poona Ford. And then Matthew Stafford, of course, they brought him back. San Francisco 49ers, they lost a lot, but they moved off of Deebo Samuel. Seahawks, we've talked about them a lot, and that is going to be it, everyone. That's all the moves from free agency day one. I appreciate you all so much for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed this format. If there's anything I missed and you'd like me to cover, even though I just showed you everything, please leave it in the comments. I'll probably wrap all of free agency up in one more video, tracking this each day. Not quite as much is going to happen in day 2, I have a feeling. So hope you guys enjoy this instant reaction to day 1 of free agency. If you want to check out my takes on what teams should do in their offseason, go check it out. I got a whole playlist where I go division by division and say what I would do to address every team's biggest need. And then finally, if you enjoyed this video, please drop that like. Tell me in the comments, like I said, who is the winner of day one of free agency? I think it's the Bears, personally. Could be the Lions, though. Or, maybe you should tell me. And subscribe if you don't want to miss this offseason content, man. I've been pumping it out, and I can't stop. So, please, if you did enjoy, catch me in the next one. Peace out.